Ah, Power, the show that keeps on giving, and at its best at that. If any of you guys remember, towards the end of 2021, I kind of went MIA for a couple months. Part of it because I was working on that one video that, you can't watch anymore, but most of it was because I was watching all the seasons of Power, and seeing a once great show crumble into dust. I feel like going over everything that happened will take a grip, so instead, I've decided to go over the grimiest characters on the show. Also, let it be known, even though they are very related terms, grimy is not exactly synonymous with wicked, but they do go hand in hand. Like, you could be wicked and not really grimy, but if you're a grimy, then you're definitely wicked. And given that pretty much the whole cast of the show is pretty grimy, just know that the 5 characters I picked are a collection of psychopaths beyond redemption. But before I talk about the characters, I want to give you a really short plot summary, so you guys can get a little bit of context. But to keep it a stack, if you watch a show, you'd understand what I'm about to talk about a lot more. The show is about Ghost, a major poison pusher who's just trying to make the world a better place in his own special way. His drug business is so big, he's far graduated from being a petty streets dealing bum, like he's directly under foreign cartels, but now he's tired of ruining his community through drugs and violence, and instead seeks to go legal and promote alcoholism and fornication through his nightclub, which he plans to make the littest in New York. When it comes to trafficking though, his main partner is a guy called Tommy, who's an irredeemable psychopath, but it's okay, because that's just Tommy being Tommy. At home, he has a loving, reasonable wife, Tasha, who completely supports and condones his life of crime, but has reservations about, him not being a semi-terrorist, and he has 3 children that he tries to shield his street past from. But one day while at the club, he runs into his ex-girlfriend from high school and falls in love again. Also, she's a cop. That's the plot of the show. Now, starting the list off at number 5, we have that lame-ass nigga Milan. Now, him being at 5th spot was actually a tough decision to make. I didn't know if I should put that Snake Sandoval, or even Ghost himself, or maybe Tasha, but at the end of the day, Ghost was just a hardworking black man who wants to make the world a better place. And Tasha may be a bum, but again, all the stuff she did, well, most of it at least, was for her family. Or something. Not really. She just wants a drug closet and money. But when it came to Sandoval, the thing is, he did some snaked out things to keep it a stack, but still, like, he was threatened or something, so it's different. So I have to say Milan is worse. Honestly, I really just don't like this nigga, bro. He represents the show becoming lame to me, because as a villain, he kinda comes out of nowhere, and he's not anywhere near as interesting as Lobos, or even the Jimenez siblings or anything. But whatever. He may have been the start of the downward spiral, but he definitely wasn't the worst part of it. I call him grimier than most, because of how he tried to threaten my boy Ghost in his own crib, against his family. Like, that couldn't go. I'm glad he got murked like a couple episodes later, but at the same time, the fact that he was introduced just to be deleted episodes later makes him even lamer. But whatever, at least he's gone now. Now on to number 4 is everyone's favorite character for some reason, Tommy. Now Tommy is a lot more reasonable in his boring and low-rated spin-off, but in the original Power, he was actually demented. Like, you could tell he just loves to commit murders in the worst way possible, always trying to keep Ghost in the life of crime like the negative influence he is. Then has codependence when he tries to make a life for himself, like the parasite he is. Now that being said, I gotta call him grimy for a select few crimes that stick out in my mind. There's that one time he tortured some guy by burning them alive, with a schoolboy smile on his face. Then there's the time he sent his own sperm donor on a trip, but to be fair, he was telling on his own spawn. That isn't the wave. Then he killed the love of Ghost's life, while trying to get Ghost, which is already 2 violations in one. But I think what gets me in my feelings the most is the fact that he got rid of that one lawyer who did his job perfectly. Like, he really ended the most useful character in the show, and that pissed me off. Like, he didn't need to go out like that. But still, Tommy doesn't intentionally go after civilians, so at the end of the day, he can't be the grimiest. So at number 3, we have 50 Cent's alter ego, Kanan. This guy's like my favorite character, because he's pretty funny. But don't get it twisted, he was a being straight from the underworld. Like, he tried to engineer problems with the squad from behind the scenes. Then when his wicked plot was foiled, 50 Cent decided to act out his real-life fantasies in the show he produced, send his own son to the next dimension. After his actual resurrection, he turns Ghost's son to rig against him, and makes him the most unlikable, worthless, ungrateful, useless kid for the rest of the show. And that alone makes him grimier than both Milan and Tommy combined. But after he says the dumbass fuck nigga, he becomes a comic relief. Like, he goes around working with Ghost and Tommy, then plotting against them and stuff. And it's like, just make a move already. But one act of pure griminess that really sticks out to me is that Tommy put that old woman in the dirt just for being in his way. Like, his soul needs to be destroyed. But yeah, dude was a sicko. I feel like 50 wanted everyone to talk about his character the most, so he made him the most wild villain possible. And I'm like, hey man, at least he's not one of those celebrities that has a contract stipulating that to be in a show, they have to be meat-ridden by every character that they come across. The only problem they have with the character is that they make him like a Superman. Like, he's out just murking cartel leaders. Like, since when were you that big? Also, side note, I need you Negroes to stop thinking 50 Cent actually writes the show or something. He doesn't. He just puts money up for the show. Like, maybe he has some creative input here or there, especially for his own character, but you can't really credit or blame him for the show being good or ass. Now, number 2 is who I'm sure most of you think should be number 1, but trust me, there's one person even worse. But yeah, number 2 is that one nigga Dre. This guy has no sense of conscience. Like, at the very least, Kanan somewhat tried to look after Tariq, but Dre, yeah. If you weren't his daughter, as far as he cared, you go in a garbage disposal. Like, this man had no sense of loyalty whatsoever. How you snake the guy that gave you your first look so many times? In the beginning of this series, Ghost basically picks him up from the trenches and gives him an opportunity to make a life for himself. But what does he do with it? Turn out the man who gave him a way out of the streets, like the first chance he gets. Ghost should have been deleted him, but he's too much of a patient and understanding man, which I understand. If no one else is gonna be the pillar of the community, then you have to step up. But still, Dre needs to catch a shell, and just like the show in general, he got a lot worse as the show went on. Like, first off, he's a rat, which isn't the move, but come last season everyone was riding anyway, so he was fitting right in. How are you being guarded by the feds cause you're a rat, and then you murk the guy that saved you and your daughter? Like, come on man, you can't be serious. How is it that the government task force sent to stop some drug dealers in Queens ended up being exterminated? Like, what are these niggas, the cartel? Slight detour from the list, but that's what I hate the most about the show in general. Like, it's so capped out. Since when were New York drug dealers just out here murking cops, lawyers, and even cartel kingpins? Like, who do these niggas think they are? Also, notice how the floodgates for this nonsense came around in season 3? When they had Ghost and Tommy just hijack a van with the cartel boss in it? Yeah, that's just not happening. Then they took it even further, and had Ghost framed for killing a fed and get away with it. Like, this can't be real life. Cause if it was, the National Guard would have put the whole place on lockdown. But anyway, back to Dre. So on top of murking the guy that was sent to defend him, he's so twisted, he used his own man as a human shield after he tried to lay his life down for him. Like, look at this. This is why he had to meet the flames in the end, literally. Before we move on to the most grimy character, let's look at some dishonorable mentions. First up, we got Tasha. Literally would rather be married to a drug-dealing parasite than a hardworking businessman. Then there's Holly. She's that one clown Tommy was with, forgot her place for a second, then tried to get Ghost sent to the sky. So I could never really hate Tommy because he put her down. And speaking of Tommy putting down people, there's his sperm donor, who ratted on his own son. Then there's his mom, useless as a parent, woman, and human being. Then there's Lobos, who, for a cartel leader, was actually pretty reasonable, but not really, because he was the leader of a criminal enterprise. Then there's him and his siblings, just more criminals with no regard for their fellow man. There's Tariq, the biggest tryhard on the whole network. There's 2-Bit, just a mindless stuck who belongs in a cell. There's Spanky, you told. There's Sandoval, how are you a fed and clicked up with the ops? Like, make it make sense. Then there's that nigga that killed Reyna, he was pretty twisted. And if there's anyone I haven't mentioned so far, let me know in the comments. But without further ado, it's time we discuss the grimiest. Now I know what you guys are thinking, but you already went over Dre, and anybody else who could have been the grimiest was in the dishonorable mentions. No, there is one left, and that is Kanan's cousin, Jukebox. She is, as far as I can tell, the worst human being in the entire series. Not necessarily because she does the worst thing, but because she has the least regard for life. When she found out her cousin killed his own seed, she bigged up him for it, like the criminal mind that she has told her to. Then she decides to help him trick a child into thinking that they thought he was cool, just to kidnap him, hold him for ransom, and put him down anyway. And again, the world would be a better place without Tariq in it, but bro, you're tweaking. She doesn't even know Ghost didn't want to do all that. She just feels happy causing pain and suffering. And this isn't even going to the body she caught while in the commission of this wicked plots. Again, she's just a lost soul. Just like when Tommy sent Holly to the sky, I can never really hate Kanan, cause he was willing to put his rabid dog down. So in general, I would say she's both the grimiest and most wicked character in the show. Watching her do her nonsense on screen made me really look at niggas like Kanan and Tommy like they had souls. I think what makes her worse than someone like Dre is the fact that at least Dre shows he's somewhat capable of caring about other people. Like with his daughter, or more tellingly, that one time he let Tariq know about something that he didn't have to, or the fact that he even told Tariq not to mess with Kanan's squad in the first place. But Jukebox appears entirely incapable of showing genuine affection at this point. Yes, I know she used to be an actual person back in book 3, and I'm sure we'll see her descent to the underworld in more depth there, but yeah, she needs to go. Like I said, in this show, almost everyone is grimy. Like, the whole show is full of lies, deception, and just general snakery. It's kind of interesting, so I would recommend watching, but it fell off a cliff in the last 3 seasons. So just save yourself the trouble and pick a better show to watch. Or just watch the first 3 seasons up to halfway in, and watch some other video summary of what happens after that. I know I've been disrespecting the show heavy, and trust, it should not be respected after season 3, but keep in mind that even the worst season of Power is better than the best season of Empire, or The Shy. Just know that if you're a drug dealer with a clowned out wife, it makes complete sense to abandon her for your high school sweetheart, and then transition to be a respectable club owner and politician.